this is going to be the last mailbag for today. I've only been out here about an hour, and I said it's about 6:30 in the evening now, and it is still utterly sweating buckets, and I can feel it. I'm sweating buckets. So this will be the last one for this session. These are mailbag. Remember, these are comments and questions you guys leave on the channel. I do my humble best to answer them, or I throw them out to the community. But before we get going, normal parish notices. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, why not? Subscribe icon, hit that. If you want to be notified when content like this hits the channel, the bell icon. Consider supporting the creation of videos and get early access to some videos. Go across to Patreon, the address is down there. Instagram, Facebook feeds, also down the bottom there. But now back to the main video. So the first question comes from DJ Alexa. Actually, it was 2 comments that this person made in response to the Behringer RD8 video updating firmware. Now, this video I did in February this year, but I've actually had to upload it again because YouTube have changed the way their algorithms work, which meant that it did all kinds of weird and strange stuff to the original video. So I haven't yet taken the old video down, but I have hidden it, and this is the new video. Just as that's about as clear as mud. I think this is a lady, and she writes, "Hi, thanks for the heads up. I just purchased an RD8 and have yet still have time to cancel it. I would like to know, in your honest opinion, for this drum machine. I am doing some YouTube research on the RD8 and to figure out if it's possible for a good purchase or not. I got some issues with the Behringer firmware and thin manuals that comes for their devices, and also poor customer support. I never got a straight answer for any of my issues, so I figured it out myself this time. With luck, I was able to solve those issues sometime I wasn't forced to return the devices. Thanks." And then the second comment was, "I just wanted to let you know that if it wasn't for you, I bet a lot of people would be scratching their heads, wondering why Behringer does not provide in-depth information about their products. Thanks." Well, firstly, thank you for the feedback. I'm always glad to help people. I kind of find it always difficult to understand the stance that some of these manufacturers take regarding documentation. I know if you read the manuals that were supplied with some of the legacy synthesizers, they were incredibly detailed, but ultimately they were written in such a way that they actually made them pretty much useless. And I think the current thinking is that when you issue a piece of new equipment, you basically let people buy it, go on YouTube, and they tell you how to do all the functions you want, and then publish it to the rest of the world. I kind of think that's what's going on with a lot of these manufacturers, I have to be honest. But I have to be honest and say, if a manufacturer approached me and said, "Would you do a bunch of YouTube videos?" I think I'd have great fun. But the way I would approach it would be to look at some what we call in the software world use cases. So how do you do something, and then do the YouTube video along those lines. So things like creating and saving combinations, editing and saving tones, creating new patterns, how to trigger things, that sort of kind of thing. Now, in terms of what you asked about, is the RD8 a good machine? The answer is yes, the RD8 is a good machine. I think Behringer found a bunch of issues with the firmware, and that's kind of stopping them launching the RD9, which is the 909 clone. But in terms of is it a good machine? Yeah, I've actually really enjoyed playing with my RD8. It is a very good TR-808 substitute if you haven't or can't afford an original TR-808. So, yes, I do think it's worthwhile. So the next one comes from Michael David. And this is really a request. So this is responsible for the Yamaha DX7 altering the power arrangement, which is basically where I cut the cable off and put what I do with a lot of my synthesizers, I don't use the original plug from the machine to the wall. I always have an IC cable plugging into them. And the reason for doing that is actually when you put them into storage, into cases, I don't want the plug digging into the keyboard. That's one of the reasons anyway. It's also easier to use IC cables. Anyway, that aside, Michael writes, I have a 110 volt Mark 1 DX7, I'm swapping the power supply for one that can be altered between 110 and 220 volts, saves the need for a step-down transformer, in which it does. But what I've written back to Michael and said, and anybody else out there, is if you're alternating the power supply in a DX7, what are you installing in its place? I'd really be interested to know what you install in its place. Is it some sort of modular power supply? Is it something you're buying on the aftermarket and then fitting into the DX7? I'd really love to understand what it is you're putting in the DX7. Mine is a 220 volt Mark II, but there are a couple of reasons why I'm asking the question. So if you are doing that sort of alteration, let me know how you're doing it and what you're doing. It'd be really great. It's kind of the wrong way around. For some reason, I skipped number 3 and did number 4. Number 2 and did number 3. Whatever. So this one, and I haven't written down who this is from actually, but this was relating to the TR8 upgrading firmware video I did in July this year. And I made the statement that I thought that the 7X7 expansion pack was going to be released for free because they were discontinuing the unit. Now, I couldn't check with my one when I did the unit because I already owned the 7X7 extension pack. But this particular user has written, thanks for the information. Can you tell me how to download the 7X7 expansion pack for free? I can't find it. And I'm assuming that you've done the upgrade to the 1.61 firmware upgrade. And if you've done the upgrade and the 7X7 expansion pack is not there, then the information I was given was wrong. And it's not free yet, but I suspect it will become free at some point in the future. So I apologise for that, but that was what I was told. Okay. Last one. From J Busyboy Films. In response to the SMR I did on the A80, the D05 and Dunmuro back in September 2017. And he writes, I have an A80 in almost mint condition, hooked it up to the Protheseus 1, and I was looking to get more information about navigating about the menu and controls, and I stumbled across your video, and you talked about duct tape for 6 minutes. Well, I did, because it was welded to the machine. Maybe you'll add to your title how to take off duct tape off your keyboard. That is. You're right, it is a heavy tank. Also, do you know anything about setting up a second pedal? One is working, but the other one I just purchased does not seem to do anything when plugged in. Yeah, well, I had to get duct tape off that keyboard, and it was a nightmare. It was absolutely welded to it, but I seem to have done quite a good job. I have to be honest and say I've been trying to make a video about the A80 for quite a while. It's been in the studio, I've been using it, but I just haven't got round to getting the camera onto the unit and actually going through some fairly standard use cases on it to sort of relay to you guys. Lots of other stuff just got in the way. I'm sorry about that. But luckily the housemates are up for lifting duty, so that if I do actually go and get it out of storage and bring it here, I can actually make those videos because they help me get it onto the stand. I had to pack down the A80 from the studio, and I did it on my own, and believe me, it was a nightmare because there wasn't a lot of room in the studio with all the other stuff that was in there. So trying to sort of pack this down into a flight case was a nightmare, I have to be honest. But I did it. I did do it. Probably put me back out doing it, but I did it. Anyway, right to pedal issues. The theory with the A80 is you tell the A80 what the pedal on the port does, and then it just does it. Now, there are a couple of things you need to be aware of. First of all, there are obviously 4 sockets on the back of the A80. When the A80 was originally introduced to the market, Roland was supplying 3 types of pedal. There was the DP2, which was the sort of the press one. Then you had the DP6, which was the pedal, which was more of a piano style pedal. And then there was the EV5, which was the volume style pedal, where you could increase and decrease volumes. And at the back of the unit, you've got 4 inputs, and those inputs will take any of those. Was designed to take any of those 3 pedal types. So the first thing you need to do is you need to ensure that the pedal you've bought is compatible with probably a DP2 or a DP6. Now, you also need to ensure that if it's compatible with one of those two, you need to ensure it's not compatible with the DP5, where the polarity of the pedal is the other way around, if that makes any sense. So specifically, the polarity is probably what might be causing your problem here. So once you know that your pedal is emulating the DP6 or DP2 and not DP5, then the next thing you need to do is you need to tell the keyboard what you want that pedal to do. And the way you tell the keyboard what you want that pedal to do, and I'm doing this from memory, is you go view, zone, curve, foot controller, and then you switch the socket on, and you tell the keyboard what pedal you've got pushed into that socket. So whether you want it to do a dampening action, or you want it to do a sustain action, or whatever it happens to be, you need to tell the keyboard what you want that pedal to do. The other thing you need to do is you need to make sure that the pedal is assigned to the zone you're playing. So what do I mean by that? So you can set the keyboard up into multiple zones, okay? And you assign the pedals into those zones. So if you don't have the pedal set up in the right zone, even though you press the pedal, it won't work, because it's trying to sort of play the zone in. So I always have a generic one zone on the keyboard. I always have that, and that generic one zone is where I test all this stuff out, where I think I've got something going wrong. So basically all the pedals and all the controls are assigned to the same zone, and once you know it's working in zone 1, then you can actually have multiple zones, and you can then get it to work in other zones on the keyboard. But because the keyboard is zonal, this sort of you need to make sure that you've got the right zone assigned to the right pedal, so that when you depress the pedal, it's actually pushing the note data out for what you're trying to do. I hope that makes sense, because if it doesn't, then you'll have to watch the videos I make, and they'll be made shortly. But that's the lot for this one round. Live long and prosper. See you guys next week.